This week we're going to talk about chunking. So why chunk? The reason is that the conscious brain can only hold 7 plus or minus 2 pieces of information at any given time. So what chunking does is it allows you to incorporate more information within that limitation. And studies have shown that people who are proficient at a subject or task exhibit more chunking in their thought process. So what is chunking? Chunking is really just organizing, categorizing, grouping information based on similarities. And this allows you to easily notice patterns and comparisons not only within groups, but between them. And I think it is important to point out that IQ tests are largely based around pattern recognition. So what we value as intelligence is oftentimes merely just an ability to find patterns. So, as an easy example, let's start with just memorizing this list. It's in no order, and let's say you take 30 seconds to try to memorize it. And then see how much you still remember after 1, 5, 20 minutes, or an hour or more. And you'll notice that how much you remember will drop off over time. Now let's say you organized it. In this sense, we see first we have fruit, and then animals, states, and cars. Do you notice the difference on how easy it is to memorize it? Now, obviously, I threw in some color, but I think you'll notice that being able to group things into categories does make a difference. It makes it more memorable, and it should last in your memory for longer. So that's obviously a simple example, and I think most people understand the importance of grouping. So let's take it further. Now, the way I see it, grouping is taking what you already know about something and then using that to group it and categorize it. Now we're going to see how you can use chunking to extract more information than what you were given. So let's give it a shot with herbs. So let's start by organizing herbs, and I've decided to organize them based on the part of the plant that's used. So we have roots, leaves, and fruit. Next, we're going to reorganize them using a different method. So here, they're organized based on their function. So we have adaptogens, circulation enhancers, nutritives, and diuretics. Now let's compare the two. So when we make the connections, here we see the adaptogens, the circulation enhancers, the nutritives and diuretics, while in the root, fruit, and leaf grouping. So what can we deduce from this? This is where we start to analyze and ask further questions. So here's some examples of certain questions you might ask. So you may question the patterns that you see. First of all, are all roots adaptogens? That's a very valid question because in this example they are. Further research would show that no. You have Arctium lapo, which is burdock, that's a root, but it's not an adaptogen. Next, you can ask, are all adaptogens roots? Also, that comes back no. Centella asiatica is not a root, and it's an adaptogen. Next, you can compare within these similar groups. So within the group of fruits, Crataegus, capsicum, and punica all enhance circulation, but capsicum is the most stimulating. So within those, you can kind of see how they vary within themselves. Next, you need to look at whether there's just correlation or if there's causation. So things that are correlated may not cause one another, and you need to look into that. So in the example, the leaves are both nutritive and diuretic. Is this causal relationship or just correlation? For example, does the high level of vitamins and minerals cause the diuresis? Or does the diuresis somehow enhance the nutritive effects of the herbs? This is something that would require further research. So here are some good general questions to ask. So first of all, what patterns do you see? And then next, you want to look at how strong is the correlation. And this would require extra research to look up to see and test your theory. Next, are the correlations unidirectional or multidirectional? For example, most diuretics are leaves, but are most leaves diuretics? That's kind of like the all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares, that type of thing. Next, are the correlations causally linked? Again, is there a mechanism behind this that can maybe explain the connection? And then at the end of it, you need to decide whether this is valuable to even think in this way. So there are obviously limitations. My example was cherry-picked so that all the categories fit nicely, but as you'll see, not everything works that way. Some things that make it a little more difficult are if there are many different subcategories, and this can make the cross-referencing very tedious. And if you are familiar with herbs, you'll see that there are so many different possible actions that this is one of the issues that you can run up against. And I suggest just to try to make it simple. If there's too much cross-referencing going on, try to pick the subcategories that are most prevalent. Another possible setback is having poorly delineated groups. For example, many herbs fit into multiple categories, even just the parts of the plant used. Some are just the leaf is used, but some are leaf and flower. Some are whole plants. Another limitation is trying to make correlations without enough data. This is why it's so important to do research and to test your conclusions. Now, the benefits. You have obviously the implicit benefits of categorizing and organizing, which is beneficial in itself. And from that, you have the ability to easily draw patterns and correlations. And again, this is very important when you're studying. From this, you can develop theories about the why and the how of the correlations you see. And you benefit from being driven to do the extra research to ascertain the validity and consistency of your theories. And this leads to a deeper understanding of the material, and it's going to be deeper than if you just memorized. And this leads to an increase in knowledge base that helps you get more comfortable with the material. You'll get clinical pearls out of it if you do adequate research. And it will increase your ability to learn even more because you'll have a stronger foundation for the material. And I think most importantly, you'll go from memorizing to truly understanding, and your grades will improve. So this has been Chunking. Check back next week for more great tips for free. Again, if you ever have questions, just ask. Thank you.